Welcome back to RandomRodShop, folks. Well, you can see I got the bed setting on here. This has been as you might expect, this has been a struggle to try to get this bed level and the body lines lined up. Let me take the camera around. I'll show you on the side. So I've got a string across there. You can you see the tape. I don't know if you can see the string or not, but you can see where the bed hits the back of the cab. And I think I've got this thing level side to side. I've got screw jacks and jacks underneath the frame, try to get it all level. Doors open down there. It's still not what I would consider perfect, and kind of like the front end, I think we're just going to have to get close enough. This is definitely one of the 90-10 rules. The amount of effort to get that last 10% is equal to the amount of effort it took you to get the first 90%. Anyway, I've got it all set up. I've got the front. I don't know if I can get up there to see that. Let me get out of the light. You can see I made just a little C-shaped bracket, right, on each side. The front's not welded down, but I've got the elevation right. Alright, I've got those brackets shimmed, so the elevation is right. The bed is level left to right. The bed is centered on the back of the cab, and I've got the bed centered back here. Near as I can tell, it's close. Let me show you what I'm thinking about back here. Alright, so you know, that piece of 3/16 plate I got when I was working on the 67 front suspension, I cut out some, I don't know what you want to call those, S strips. Anyway, I need to go from there to the bottom of this bed where it mounts. So I got those brackets, I got those plates cut, got them on each side. They're not welded in, they're not anything. I'm still trying to get them, still trying to triangulate everything and get it where it needs to be. So my thought is I'm going to run a plate from the top of this plate underneath here, underneath that, and on top of that, and that bed will sit on top of that. Then go ahead and make a C-channel out of these 3/16 plates I cut. Right, so it'll be a C-channel, you know, all the way back to the horizontal plate. And then obviously on that horizontal plate we'll put a triangle, you know, put a bracket, a stiffener bracket underneath the bottom. So that's my plan at this moment. Alright, well, the trick is to see if all of that planning and measuring and you know, welding was right. So I'm going to take this thing around to the back of the truck and we're going to set it up in there and see if it fits. Alright, I'm going to move the camera. Well, that didn't look too bad. So let me get some measurements here and make sure this thing is the same distance, and then I think I'm going to clamp. The question is, I wonder if I should allow, given this bed didn't go on this frame. I'm actually wondering if I shouldn't put a shim underneath this brace to allow me just a little bit of wiggle room, and just in case I need it. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go find some 1/8" plate, and I'm going to stick under these. I'm going to stick under the bed mounts, if you will, and add just a little bit of a gap. Let me go find some plates. All right, so just a couple of pieces of 1/8". I'm going to slide those under the mounting points. I'm going to slide those underneath mounting points on both sides, just so I have just a little bit of adjustability once this thing all gets together. I need to find a tape measure and make sure it's the same distance down on both sides. I spent all this time trying to get it all right. In the end, you know as well as I do, it ain't ever right. All right, I'm going to measure from the end of the rectangular tube that I welded on and to the end of this frame. 14 3/8 right there. Uh, 14 1/2 there. So yeah, I think I'm going to take this one in. All right, I got 14 3/8 there. And 3/8. Now comes the tricky part. Need to make sure that this beam I've got across there, this rectangular tubing, is level with the frame. All right, let me dig up some levels. Now, this thing's probably about as good as I am going to get it. That's bouncing between 0.1 and 0. What happened to my measurement? Yeah, that one's bouncing between 0.1 and 0 too. I'm beginning to think I may have a... Let me take that thing apart. That thing's doing something squirrely. I may have a dirty battery or something, or maybe just a dead battery. Anyway, the level say it's level. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the back off that meter and just make sure everything's cleaned up in there. I'm not sure why it threw that error code. Alright, well now it's a 0 again. So it's right on the edge. Okay, I'm going to go do that, and then I'll drag the, then I'll come back around here and we'll clamp this thing up and we'll measure it again. Alright, put some new batteries in it. It doesn't seem to be as flaky at this point as it was, so alright, we're going to go on from here. As I'm playing with this thing, it would appear that the outside of these frame rails are kind of swelled out a little bit. I'm going to go get me a give me a long reach clamp and see if I can clamp back into the back here and kind of see what we got. All right, let's see if we can figure out what we got going on here. All right, one more time. Let's put the level on it. Well, that's showing 0 now. Alright, so that's 0.1. Let's see. Make sure we got the distance right again. Still got 14 3/8 there. Still got 14 3/8 there. All right. Well, it would appear that that's where it wants to be. So let's talk about what the thing should be stable now. So here's what my plan is. You know, I don't know if you saw that, but there's bolt holes in the side of that. My plan is to weld this on and to bring back the rest of the C-channel, you know, basically the same as this frame, bring it all the way back on the bottom and the top to sort of just extend the frame. I thought about bolting on the back of it, but I think I'll be happier if we just extend that C-channel all the way back and weld that thing in there solid. I think so anyway. All right, it's gonna take me a bit to find the right, you know, to find that strap. I'm probably gonna have to cut it out. I don't know that I got anything. I don't know that I've got anything that's going to be that size. So, you know, that's the way it is around here. Let me get some straps measured, hunt up some metal, and get those things made. And then what are you doing, buddy? Let me get those made, and then I'll bring you back then. So you see what I'm doing. Just takes a little bit of time. All right, I'll shut you off when I get this thing fitting. Well, that looks pretty good. It's good enough for welding, and I'll have to trim one end to the other. All right, let's go stick it on. All right, well, I think that's gonna fit. Looks like I need, I don't know, it looks like maybe an 1/8 of an inch. It's hard to see. About an 1/8 of an inch trim off the back side. I got this side in there. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these trimmed up and grind everything down and get these welded in, and then we'll focus on making the bottom. It's getting warm by this door. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it. I'll see if I can get a light hooked up back here so we can see what we're doing. Well, I kind of jumped the gun, folks. So I went ahead and I tacked these in. I made the bottoms. And everything's just tacked in right now. So I think that's going to work pretty well. The reason I went ahead and took it off is because I want to clean this all up, and this edge is still flared out a little bit here, and this edge is flared out a little bit over here. So I'm going to get this cleaned up. I'm going to get a big hammer, see if I can straighten those edges up. We'll get that cleaned up, get the edges straightened, and then we'll get this welded back in there. Or I'll set this back in, and then I'll weld this back in. We'll weld it back in. I don't actually think it's a good idea to put that much heat in this assembly unless it's clamped in and welded in over there. So I'm gonna get that cleaned up, and we'll squirt some rust converter on it and get it painted. So I'm gonna have to let that set for a little bit. So I'll get back to you in a little bit. Alright, well, as it turned out, I had to add a few more shims here. So I got about a total, let's see, what have I got there? I think at this point I got somewhere around 7/16. And that'll be okay. That'll give me plenty of room to do the final adjustments on this bed to get the body line straight on it. Let me move that welder out of the way. Now, right now that looks pretty good. Let's see if it's still centered on the back of the cab. I don't know if you can see that black mark, but maybe the front is about, front of the bed, maybe 1/8 of an inch. It's hard to say. Anyway, I need to scooch the bed over to the left just a little bit. But I think that's going to work out pretty good. Well, folks, this day is getting long in the tooth. All right. So, if you've been hanging with me for a while, you know that the rust converter I use is this Converter Ultra off of Amazon. I really like this stuff. It seems to do a good job. Now, just in case you don't know, you got to seal this before you put it out in the weather, because if you don't seal it and you stick it outside, I don't know, I don't have any proof on this. I've got some examples, but this thing, it's like it doubles down on the rust if once you put this on. So if you put this on, it's going to go outside. Just make sure you get it all sealed up, regardless, you know, whatever your preference is. Even a can of Krylon, just something to get it sealed up so it's not exposed to the weather. If you get it sealed, it works really, really well. Anyway, that's what I use there. So I got that all cleaned up, put the rust converter on it. I've got it welded up in there, and it seems to be within 0.1 degrees, which, given everything else I've run into on this pickup, that's pretty good. The bed looks like it's still lined up. You know, I put the 1/8 inch shim in the back there just to give me a little play. When it was all welded, and you know, now that it's fixed in there, it opened it up a little bit. But that actually makes me, I'm happy with that. That means I got a little more adjustment back there to get that bed lined up. You know, get the body lines string lined up. So the next video, I'm going to see if I can get this thing bolted down and get it drug outside. I'm still thinking about extending those bed rails. Haven't quite decided. I've kind of done a double take on what I said originally and the way I was going to do it. But I'm still thinking that those bed rails really need to go up. Or at least you need the perception that the bed rails go up. Well, folks, I appreciate you watching. This video, I will admit, this video is kind of dry, but I've got a lot of hours of work just to do this little piddly stuff that we did today. Sometimes it just bees that way, right? Anyway, if you like seeing old pickups, go ahead and subscribe, make a comment, and tell your friends. And until next time, I'm RandomRodShop, and I'm out of here.